The saga continues. Now it's the era of the foot soldiers. Hi, and welcome to Red Evony. I am Akayasha. You can call me Aka. So, we are continuing the Civ Gear selection series, this time for the Ground General. And when we're talking about Civ Gear for Ground Generals, there are basically three sets that we're looking at. We're looking at the Furin Kazan set, the Antoine set, and the Aztec set. Now, that's all fine and good, but selecting Civ Gear for the Ground Generals can actually be a bit trickier than you might think. Part of the reason why is because you can very well go with full Furin Kazan set or full Aztec set, and you'll be perfectly fine. As you can see here, these are examples of people that have done just that. But funnily enough, I don't think I've ever seen anyone with a full Antoine set. That I don't think I've seen. I've heard some people talking about getting 4 pieces of Antoine so that they can get the big march size capacity attributes that it has for the 4 pieces. Okay, that's fine, but I haven't seen it. I don't know, maybe it's just the neighborhood that I live in. But yeah, in most cases, it's either full Furin Kazan or full Aztec. And you can mix and match as necessary or where applicable. So that's the basic gist of Civ Gear selection for Ground Generals. Now, let's go in and I'll walk you through my selection process for the Civ Gear for my Ground General. So, we have my Ground General here, and the first piece that we'll start off with is the piece that most people tend to get first, and that is the ring. Maybe it's because of the way the Civ Gear was released, but for most people, the first piece of Civ Gear that they get for the Ground Generals is the Furin Kazan bracers. And you can see I have mine here. Now, that's not to say that the other pieces are not good. As you can see here, we have the Antoine shield and the Aztec shield. And both of these are fairly decent pieces. They both have march size, as does the Furin Kazan bracers. And the stats on them are okay. If I had to pick between these two, I'd probably say the Aztec shield. But considering the fact that I already have the Furin Kazan bracers, that question of the selection is pretty much a done deal. At least for now. So, Furin Kazan bracers is there. Now, the next piece I want us to talk about is arguably the most important piece. And that is the weapon. The weapon usually has the highest attack buffs, and in my opinion, it's the most important piece that you need in your Civ Gear selection, and it generally dictates what kind of pieces you have going forward. So, we have the 3 weapons here for the sets, and in my opinion, the Furin Kazan katana and the Aztec obsidian sword have better buffs than the Antoine pilum. It looks like a spear. I wonder why they named it pilum. Anyway, so I think those 2 weapons are better than the Antoine. So we'll drop the Antoine out of selection now. So the choice is between the Furin Kazan katana and the Aztec obsidian sword. And in my opinion, I think the Aztec sword has the better all-round buffs. Okay, the Furin Kazan katana has the very big ground attack, but unfortunately, all the other stats that it has are not really relevant. Yeah, if you have some range in your ground march, then the marching range attack would be helpful. The range debuff is helpful as well, but compared to the Aztec sword, I think it's falling just a bit short. So, my selection for the weapon for my Ground General will be the Aztec obsidian sword. Of course, as you can see, I don't have that piece yet. It's a supremacy piece, but whenever the opportunity presents itself for me to get it, that's the weapon that I'm going to go with. Okay, so we have 2 pieces done. The next one that we're going to move to is the leg armor. Right here, we have the 3 leg armors for the different sets. And right off the bat, I will say that the Furin Kazan leg armor is pretty much out of the question. The stats on that are not good. I don't know why they did it like this, but in my opinion, the Furin Kazan leg armor is the least useful out of the 3. So we're going to cut that one out of selection. So we have the Antoine leg armor and the Aztec leg armor. And looking at the 2 pieces, the Antoine leg armor kind of looks pretty okay. Looks pretty decent. The buffs on it look pretty good. It's got attack buffs and HP buffs, and they look okay, while the Aztec has HP and defense. However, the slight issue with the Antoine leg armor is that the other 2 stats that it has, the debuffs, are pretty much not helpful for a ground general. Whereas the Aztec has rage defense debuff, which, while it's not the best, it is still useful. So for me, this was kind of a tough decision, but I ended up going with the Aztec leg armor. If you decided on the Antoine, that would be perfectly fine. But my choice, I went with Aztec. So I have that here, and I'll just put it on my general. Now, the next piece that we're going to go to is the helmet. And again, when we're looking at these 3 helmets, in my opinion, the Furin Kazan helmet is the least attractive of the 3. So we cross that one out of selection. Now, when we look at the other 2 helmets, they both are pretty decent. And the Antoine helmet is actually looking pretty okay. However, we come to the same issue of the relevant stats. Okay, while the buffs look okay, the 4 stats in total for the Antoine helmet are not really what we need for a ground general. Whereas, while we're looking at the Aztec helmet, everything in there is applicable for our ground general. There is also another reason in that the Antoine helmet has ground attack debuff. And when I was looking at it, I was of the opinion that that helmet might actually be better on one of my sub-generals so that I can get that ground attack debuff. That's just the way I was thinking. So because of those 2 reasons, I felt that I would go with the Aztec helmet for my ground general, which is what I have. So I just slap it on here. There we go. Okay, so that's 4 pieces that we've gone through. Now, let's look at the chest armor. So we have the 3 chest armors here, and in a kind of role reversal, out of these 3, I think the Antoine chest armor is the least attractive of the 3. And that's just based on the stats. So I removed that one out of selection, and we're looking at the Furin Kazan chest and the Aztec chest. And based on the stats, I think the Aztec chest wins it. That's my opinion. So for the chest armor for my ground general, I'm going to go with the Aztec chest. And with this selection that I have, when I do get those pieces, that will complete the 4-piece attribute for the Aztec set. Now, the last piece that we're going to look at is the boots. And we have the 3 boots here. And again, for me, Antoine boots not looking very good. The stats on the boots are a bit meh. So Antoine boots, we drop out of selection. We are now looking at the Furin Kazan boots and the Aztec boots. And I don't know about you guys, but based on the stats, I think the Furin Kazan boots are the better choice. That's my opinion. If you look at the stats, it's got ground attack, all troop HP. Okay, the mounted troop defense debuff is not really helpful, but that's okay. Whereas the Aztec boots has ground troop defense, which is okay. Marching mounted attack, which is not useful for our ground general. Enemy range troop attack, okay, yeah, you could take that. So looking at these stats, all in all, I would go with the Furin Kazan boots. And with that, I would complete my safe gear selection. However, when you're looking at this selection, some people might ask the question of, why not just go with the full Aztec set? Based on my selection, I already have 4 Aztec pieces. Why not just get the Aztec boots instead of the Furin Kazan boots, and then replace the Furin Kazan bracers with the Aztec shield? That way, you would get the 6-piece set attribute for the Aztec set, plus the ownership attribute that you get when you own all 6 pieces. And in all honesty, that's actually a very valid argument. Okay? We've looked at the pieces individually, but when you're taking the set piece attributes and the ownership attributes into consideration, yeah, okay, that's a fair point. But like I said, most people start off with the Furin Kazan bracers. That's usually the first piece that they get. And because of that, there's a human factor that comes into play when you're talking about switching to full Aztec as opposed to the selection that I have here. And that is basically, no one wants to go through the trauma of having to change a piece of safe gear, go through the refinement again, and then have a useless piece of safe gear that you're not going to use for anything. This is my Furin Kazan bracers. All right? I've done the refinement to damn near perfection. Okay? And I've also started the advanced refinement on this gear. So, to go and change this for the Aztec shield to get the set attributes, yeah, I have a bit of resistance for that. Okay? Now, that's the human factor. But let's look at it logically. If you see here, these are the stats that you would get if for the Furin Kazan, you went with the selection and you got the boots and the bracers. Okay, so these are the stats you would get for those 2 pieces. And then these are the stats that you would get if instead you had the Aztec boots and the Aztec shield. Okay, so we can look and compare. And these are based on their base stats. Okay, so no stars or anything like that. And as you can see, there really isn't that much of a difference. Yeah, you could argue for one side or the other, but there's not that much of a significant difference between the two. And this is taking into account all the set attributes and ownership attributes that you would get from these 2 pieces. So, for me, since the difference is not that much, I'd rather save myself the hassle of having to redo a new safe gear piece with refinement and everything. I don't want to go through that stress. Okay? I don't know about you guys. But if you wanted to, yeah, you could. And I'm pretty sure that there are people that have done that. So, all in all, this is the selection that I'm going to stick with. Let me know in the comments what you think about it. That's it for me, guys. Thank you very much. Aka signing out.